if you guys took a look at this, there has been relatively nothing kind of going on. I had a really nice entry that I thought was going to become something crazy on RXT here. This thing started a really nice move. It then held on. It then proceeded to start moving in the way that I would suspect a very nice winner would move. And I thought a really nice move was going to come from this, and then I just got stopped out of break even, and really had nothing else this week. Like, the week was generally slow for myself. There was very little to do. I think a lot of the market is currently setting up and creating new potential opportunity, especially across a lot of like US equities, US stocks, whatever you want to call them. I think there's been some phenomenal lower time frame opportunities across a number of markets. We'll try to review a few today and go over a few and just see what's kind of been going on. But with the overall kind of state of the market, it's not extremely surprising where we have found ourselves, right? So a lot of the market has literally been inside of this kind of reaccumulation, expect potential move, but give it the time it needs to do things. And the market continues to kind of set up this longer term stage one, continuous back and forth, just like we kind of discussed, and creating this precedent for a new move later. But at the moment, if any of you have been following this, closely, we've had a much more back and forth weighting based market, especially with the last week being super short, with Friday not existing or anything. So I think a lot of the opportunities that are happening right now in the markets are likely on the lower time frames, I would say, and more so higher has been sideline or maybe a few break evens here and there, with the exception of some exceptional potential moves, which I haven't screened for really too much. But I'm sure if we take a look at this from high to low really quick inside of the screener, so I have this right here, what you're looking at, right, is simply the screener setup that's inside of cheat sheets and data collection right here. So you can just import that screener. We're working on actually making a few presets to it, so it makes it even easier to track for kind of just a few names rather than having to set everything up yourself. But if we just look through some of these are names that have basically, let me go like this. These are names that have basically made a move on the daily over the last 10-ish candles or so. So oftentimes these are going to be your things that are active right now in this moment and moving. Like this SLS thing created a setup actually on Wednesday or Thursday, it looks like. Yeah, this thing looks like it was really clean. But I haven't really, and this thing too. So a lot of these are actually setting up now, and I think I even have this in my list, if I'm not mistaken. FSL or something. Yeah, it's somewhere in my list. So we'll look over a number of things today, but generally you had a shorter week, so a lot less things happening. But you've had a number of names that are either setting up right now actively or proving that their strength, especially in a market where, as you guys kind of saw here, especially in a market where we are still extremely bullish in terms of the overall delivery, but simply waiting for kind of that green light for this market to be ready, which means that anything right now that is starting to show strength or starting to show this willingness to move is something that should be on your lists, something that you should be considering and waiting for to set up. Now, the way that I want you to think about this is this should remind you a lot, as cycles continue to repeat, this should remind you a lot of what we saw happen on Bitcoin or Bitcoin-based markets a few months, like even a year ago, where when Bitcoin went on its God run, as I like to refer to it as, where simply price had moved into bullish cycles and maintained those bullish cycles for a long period of time, especially on a C time frame. When that happened, all of you know what happened to the residual and relative pairs associated with this. Any Bitcoin-based stock, so this doesn't have to be something that buys Bitcoin. It could be anything that's crypto-based, crypto mining, just random crypto, just anything, even with crypto in the name or crypto AI. It doesn't really matter. A lot of those made moves that you couldn't even believe. A lot of altcoins. So these are your shit coins of the world. These are your Ethereums. These are your BNBs, your Doge coins, whatever you want to call them. These went on insane God runs. And during that time, you had good traders make a lot of money on their equity curves. You had good traders make a lot of money on their equity curves. You had other people trading all sorts of different alts across the board. And all of those, for the most part, presented insane opportunities to make money. And this is kind of the trap we've spoken about a lot of times, because a lot of trading comes down to being in the right place at the right time and just simply doing it over and over again. The way that we do it as a team especially is that we have a particular way to look at the market, to define where we are, to figure out the cycle we're in, and then to actually trade it. So we have a way to basically say no to a lot of bad shit, and we have a way to say yes and load up and put money into and let our money go to work on things that are actively and really good. So what happens is the really good traders throughout all of this do what? Well, of course, over the course of multiple losses, multiple break-evens, and multiple wins, a very simple thing happens to a profitable trader, right? The profitable trader simply has an equity curve that begins to gain in value. This is a profitable trader, and everything is amazing, right? And this is where understanding and education becomes one of the most important things in trading, because here is where there is usually a break from profitable to either a break-even or a losing trader, or a profitable and a completely losing trader. And what I mean by this is that you have heard me say the phrase that everyone is technically profitable in a good market, right? So this is the idea of throw a dart and you're profitable. If you throw a dart into a well-defined, cleanly moving market and everything's amazing, for the most part, if you're not a complete idiot and you don't completely screw up management on an emotional level where you're scared, so you start doubling down, over leveraging, over margining, losing all your money randomly, getting out of trades. If you have something as simple as, I'm going to let this go until it closes under a 20 EMA, right? Or I'm going to let this go until it makes its first anticipation of a higher low. Or I'm going to let this go until it breaks down its first structural leg. And by the way, if you're new and this sounds confusing, that's completely okay. Your main goal right now, no matter what, especially if you're confused with what I'm saying, so we're going to do this really quick, is move yourself through the portal from beginning to end. The portal contains everything I've ever done, every way that I think, including the cycles that we're trading and that we look at every single week here. So that's from the momentum cycle to what we're looking for to how we're actually trading it. So make sure you get through this and things will make a lot more sense to you as you progress. But this is where that kind of exists, right? Because if you're extremely profitable, so it's very easy to be profitable in really good market conditions. So just like Bitcoin was good before and it was making insane moves, I still have messages from this period that look something like this. So think about, an individual, and here's a little speech bubble. So I still have messages that I have them saved somewhere along the lines of, Anton, what's up? And when I say this is an actual real example of something that's happened. So I received a message like this about probably a few months ago, and the trader was talking to me about a time in the past. So around 2 to 4 years ago, he said, or it was like 1 to 3. I don't exactly remember, but what he said to me was, Anton, 1 to 3 years ago, I was trading a lot of altcoins, a lot of them, and things were actually amazing. I would literally buy these like little shit coins, and I would literally buy them, and within days, within weeks, they would make me some form of money. And Anton, I made around, so this is from a real example, Anton, I made around $230,000 over the course of less than around 11 months trading those coins and trading those markets. Now, fast forward to where we are now, I have lost most of this. I think he said something like he moved to around 30K. And he's like, things just aren't the same anymore. The markets have changed, or something along those lines. And he's both right and completely wrong at the same time. And this is where I wanted to start today's webinar, because I think this is a very important thing to understand as someone that is probably growing as a profitable trader and stepping themselves into profitability, proving to themselves what works, but maybe running into some kind of wall. Because the money that he made came from this right here. Right? Money is easily come by when you are trading inside of the kind of market where if you throw a dart, things will go well, right? And the reason I bring this up is because being in a market where you can throw a dart into it and make money presents itself many times every single year across hundreds, across thousands of different assets. It happens over and over and over again. The hard part, or let's say the part where intermediates and beginners go off the charts, is recognizing the kind of context and stories that actually create those moments. So, back to this thing right here, when you're a profitable trader, this is what your equity curve looks like, and nothing more happens. You simply wait till the next opportunity for this to happen again. When you then move into the other two types of, let's say, losing traders that tend to occur, you get into the area where somebody can make money during a time like this because they at least adhere to some formula of rules, so they make some money. But the second things break down, or things don't go well, or things naturally self-correct, or things naturally go into distributions, or the cycle at hand changes, or the cycle doesn't necessarily change, but the cycle goes into a longer form stage one, so that's where price is continuously proving that it has no willingness to move to a direction in terms of what's actually going on. Nothing changes for them. So what happens is the profit that they could and have made dwindles just as quickly. So this first form of like unprofitability ends up being what I kind of saw happen here to this trader, which is, he found himself trading at a good time. Literally, he walked into the market at a good time and he did well. That was great. And from that point, he continued to do the same thing because, hey, if I buy altcoins, they work. But without recognizing that when he made all this money, Bitcoin was doing a version of this without ever having broken down. And the second Bitcoin even showed a little bit of willingness to be in a stage one, and a little bit of a willingness to not hold up in a clear way like it had been holding up before, and even started going through distribution, this same trader, repeating the exact same thing, experienced what? Well, altcoin starts to move, you buy altcoin fails. Altcoin starts going up, you buy altcoin fails. Altcoin starts going up, you start buying altcoin, it fails. And this happens over and over and over again until basically everything gets cleared. Now, the reason I bring up Bitcoin in this particular example is because it's a great example of that kind of market that's existed. And then it's a great follow-up to the kind of market that we've now been and kind of had existed in for, honestly, the last, in a really good amount of time. Like, this is 5 years or so, even longer, right? Like, we've been in a NASDAQ market that's been exceptional for money making on a stock side or whatever, or relativity on the stock side, because it's been in one of those moments where throwing a dart ultimately will get you, will make you and net you some kind of profit if you're playing a game of management. And I'm sure a lot of you have experienced similar, right? Because it's been relatively good. So one of the things I've seen people walk into is this misunderstanding that because you've chosen something or because you're trading something, it means that you have to keep trading and that's the only thing you can make money from, right? Like, I want you guys to even think about myself as a trader. What happened to me in terms of when I first found my true bit of profitability? So remove concepts, remove everything, and just think about what I traded or what I was making money on when I first started kind of teaching in the space completely, right? Like 6 years ago, 7 years ago. What did I start by trading? And to follow that question up, was I lucky in terms of the time that I started trading the assets that I was trading? Let me go back to our chats here. And why? If you have an answer for that, I would love to hear your thoughts. Because you're degen. So, yeah, you guys are right? A lot of my own journey started with just trading like FX, right? No shit. Like that's literally where it started. And you'll see now, very clearly, there's not much FX that ever shows up. I think we spoke about an FX pair last week, right? Where I was like, hey, there's something here. But this is where it gets really interesting. And this is where I think it's so important to highlight this thing. Because a lot of people think that, Anton moved from FX, or Anton might have moved from crypto because I was technically trading crypto. And now Anton might in the future move from stocks, because you never know what's going to happen. Stocks could go into the most terrible range for the next 5 years, right? This could happen, guys. Keep that in mind. It's likely not going to happen because of how many options you have, but there is a chance that the markets I'm watching now move into complete sideways or complete nonsense or build up, and it becomes a market that's not worth looking at, right? But here's where it's really interesting. Most of my profit made from the FX side, because of when I started trading FX. Does anyone remember where it happened? It's kind of in front of you. But most of the profit made, let me follow that question up, was most of the profit made for me in FX in a market that you could clearly define as very likely stage one and hard to predict, or in a market that was very momentum based, one-sided, and continuous, even looking at my chart right now. Yeah. So you guys are hopefully kind of having this illuminate a different light for you, right? Because when I got involved, when I first kind of started getting involved in finding my own profitability via my version of trading, whatever you want to call it, right? It wasn't necessarily because I chose FX or because I chose crypto or because I chose stocks or because I chose futures or because I chose some obscure thing for whatever fucking reason, right? It's because, in a sense, I ended up in a market where throwing the dart, for the most part, would make me money. And then I aligned myself accordingly, and I traded that thing accordingly, and I traded it with decent risk, so that when I ended up on basically the altcoins of an overall well-delivering market, I did what? My equity curve did not actually look like this. My equity curve was more like much slower up curve. But it was an increasing curve. And again, I say this a lot, but I want to remind you all and let this really simmer in. Even though I technically trade less, but I don't even think I trade less. I think I trade more, but I have more time that I spend on the sidelines if there isn't anything. Like last week, right? It was full sideline. I didn't even I took one trade on Monday. I want to make this really clear. I have experienced better performance from a standpoint of compounding, earnings, RR, than I ever had trading anything else. I need that to be heard and understood, right? Because a lot of people look back even at some of my own history, and you guys can go back and you can literally look at everything. You can look at RR, what it all looked like. You can look at how many trades on average you would see me taking, right? I have never experienced a more profitable trading system than the system that has been taught for the last now 3 years, I believe, inside of the portal, right? Or 2.5 years, 2 years or so. So I want to make that really, really clear as well. If the stream resolution is low, is there any way to fix this? I think that should be on your side, not my side. You might be able to... Is it low quality, guys? It should be really high quality, by the way. It should be high quality. It was low, but it's fine. High quality, on point. Okay, good. Good to hear. Yeah, it should be high quality, though. Yeah. But my point here stands, and that is that it's the market that actually decides, or the context of the market that decides how well you're going to do, right? So what should that lead towards? Now, I know if you're lower time frame, this is a little bit different because you're going to be looking at futures and you're going to be looking at a different subset of markets, and that's completely fine. But no matter who you are as a trader, and even if you're starting as lower time frame, my assumption, of course, is that there will be a progressive curve. Even as you're being profitable on the lower, there's going to be a progressive curve to you continuing to improve and potentially working yourself up and working through increased assets. So that's going to almost always happen, right? So if what we know is true, which is that, I might have started trading during this time and throwing the darts into this market worked really well for me, and then I traded Bitcoin during these times, and the altcoins during this time, and the altcoins and the coin. Actually, I traded a lot less during this time, but traded the altcoins and the coins during this time, and the altcoins and the coins during this time, right? What should the conclusion of these actions be? Should the conclusion be that we should find the best way to trade the asset we're looking at, or should the conclusion be we should find the asset that best represents what we're seeing happen to the stuff that has moved, or to the stuff that has proved that if we throw the dart, we make money, right? That's ultimately what it comes down to, right? And the second you ask that question and answer it, because the answer is kind of staring you in the face, you realize that this whole attachment to any market, to anything, is completely useless, right? It's completely useless. And I had someone reach out to me, actually, that kind of just became part of the team and just started working through the portal. And they asked me, I don't know if they're here today, but they asked me, hey, I started going through the portal. Can you tell me, because I don't want to spend time on this if it's not worth it, how this applies to, or if this even applies to, I think he said crypto-based futures. Crypto-based futures. Right? Can I use it? Well, I mean, what do you guys think? We'll start there. The answer is of course, right? Because guess what this is? This is a crypto-based future. There's a futures market for this exact market in front of you right now. What does that mean? That means that if you have followed anything within the last few weeks of webinars or Portal Plus webinars, then you've had the kind of market that you would want to be inside of on the future based versions of this, the Bitcoin or the Ethereum, right? There it is. It's the exact same move. Nothing's different. And all you do is you have a way to trade this now because this is the futures market of it. I wonder how much hours it has in a day though. Let me check. Wait. I want to see the regular. Yeah, I mean, this is exceptional. I would be surprised if there wasn't a enormous amount of money to be made basically from here. Let me just circle it. From here to probably, I mean, yeah, I mean, all the way to the low. Here or here, right? Like you could be trading a lot of this action based on where the C is actually moving under basically the MAs. That's all you have to basically do. So this all is going to be exactly what you're asking for, right? The market environment that we have literally, and everything before that too, but the market environment that we have literally called for a few thousand times now. I'd be surprised if anyone here that's part of the team longer term will tell you that we haven't been like on top of this thing like a hawk since this moment here. And you guys can go back and you can see this in the webinars. You can go back to the Sunday on the 2nd of November. You can go back to the Sunday on the 9th of November. Right there. So you can go back to the, and I suggest you do this so you don't just take my word for it, because I have no reason. If you go back to the 2nd of November, 11th of November, and onwards, you're only going to hear one thing from me every week. That's it. That's all you're going to hear from me over and over and over again. And maybe some of the longer term members here just can confirm that, just for the purpose of keeping everything succinct and clear, and you don't have to go back right now, but you should, right? This is all you're going to hear from me. I want to short Bitcoin or anything Bitcoin related, or wait for an accumulation in the future, right? Because we moved into our first distribution in literally ever. So it's defined a direction and it's broken down, and that created a short market. And look, literally this, time flies, almost a year in passage, not fully, but like 2/3 of a year in passage. And that's exactly what has happened. And that's all I followed. And when the things started making moves higher, we sat on the sidelines and waited. And when things started re-breaking down, we had opportunity to trade it. And the lower you go, the more you'll see that, you know, you're going to have insane opportunity inside of these areas, right? And you go inside of this and you can literally go and back and see every opportunity that you had throughout this entire time here, right? Throughout any particular individual day where you had just like an MMB get built up and then you had the shorts that came from it, right? Because it's all there. Any time from any market. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Carl's PA, it works in any market and any time frame. You're right, bro. Well said. Cassian, he's saying, so are you saying that a strategy you're teaching us works best on stocks because they're cleaner, or that you're simply more profitable trading stocks? No, I'm saying the strategy that I'm teaching now is the best strategy that I've ever personally taught or done or evolved to. And it's all I've done, and there's a reason that you haven't seen a single thing changed. A single thing, right? Now, did I say that it works best on stocks? Not at all. That's not what I even said, right? And it comes down to the exact same thing over and over and over again. When you have a market, with 7,000 options, and you have a market with 4 options, and then you separate them, and then you say, where will X system work best? System work best. Replace X with any kind of system. Any. This is going to be the answer no matter what. Right? Because you are separating 7,000 options from 4. Right? That's literally all that happens. Right? If you're a fisherman in the ocean, and you can either fish in the shallow parts or whatever, where there are 4 types of fish below you, and you're praying, or you can fish in a little bit of a deeper part where there's 7,000 fish, and then you asked me which one's going to net you more, different types of fish that can make you more money. The answer is going to be here no matter what you do, right? Because it's a pool. You have to, like, if you want to separate by assets, then you have to look at it as a pool, right? Like, for instance, if we really want to get into the nitty gritty, because you can keep breaking this up even further, right? Stocks are not like just stocks, right? Here, like, let's think about it this way. FX, okay, is 4 options. There you are, done. Stocks is 7,000 options. Okay, great, then stocks are better. But what you're not realizing is that, okay, inside of this, if we start breaking it up, you have 6 that are tech, right? Or like mega, let's say mega. 6 that are tech. You have 5 that are farming, right? You have 6 that are auto insurance. Some might be just, I sell cars. I sell cars. It could be 6 here. And all of a sudden, like, let's distill this. Would it now be fair to say, would it now be fair to say that car selling stocks are better than forex if they're all doing this? Right? That the conversation no longer exists. Right? So if you start to break things apart into what they actually, in a sense, are representing, then you get to a point that nothing is necessarily cleaner or worse than another. Right? You simply have different assets. The whole game of trading, right? What is the whole game of trading? The whole game of trading is putting your money into a good asset. That's it, right? And waiting for it to make you money. Nothing more, because of the value change based on what you've tested and what you've done. Right? So, I mean, in a sense, yes, stocks are cleaner, right? Like, if that's what you want to, if that's how you want to ask the question, but also no, right? There was a time where, let's put it this way, there was a time where I wasn't touching a single stock, and I was touching for, because that's kind of how it's representative, cryptos. And during this time, crypto was better than stocks and better than forex. Right? Because crypto was in this mad, perfect like environment where stocks might have been in like some, you know, uncertain environment. Does that make sense? So does that mean crypto's better? No, not necessarily. And yet, crypto created opportunity for me to make a lot of money, right? As it did for many others. You guys know about the stories. You've heard it, right? A few hundred times now. Cassian. So you're saying the strategy you're teaching us works best on stocks because, oh yeah, we just went over that. Okay, cool. Yep. Like, one thing that I did, I don't know if you remember this, Cassian, but what I did last week, right, was what? Last week I just clicked through a few of these like futures markets because I added a bunch because we're about to have them added to the screener. So again, futures are something that I'll have an eye on for myself hires, or I'll find the associated stock with the future if there is one. But I went through a number of these because if something on the future side is looking good, there's no reason I can't trade it. Like for instance, this is trash, right? Like I can do that within seconds. If I look at corn futures right now, this is trash. I would never touch this, right? Why? Because it's stuck in a stage 1, right? Trading this is murder. And guess what? In this exact moment, forex is as good as corn, is how I would put it, right? Does that make sense? Like that's it. There's nothing more to it. So by and large, stocks are better than corn right now, right? But if there's going to be a future that sets up in the right way and looks good, there is zero reason that it can't be my go-to market or my go-to context for the next year. Right, so like as I went through this, here's GBP USD as in the form of a future. This is trash, right? Just simply, without even having to do analysis, without even having to think about what the market is, I can look at it. We're in a stage 1 without any predefined, any clear move. There is nothing to do here. That's it. My analysis is done, right? And I can go through them step by step. ZW, whatever that was, is wheat, right? Wheat. This. You know, I have an alert set in case this comes up, but right now there's nothing, right? What's this? Odd USD. This is odd USD. What am I supposed to do here? Right? Yes, we have a stage 1 breakout, but is this a market that has proven that when it has money coming into it in another direction, that it can sustain its move? Yes or no? Based on even the last 10 webinars where you've seen me break down a trade from start to finish, what's happening, what's happened before, where are we now? Does this represent, case study, does this case study wise represent what we've seen? Yes or no? Yeah, right? Of course not. Okay, cool. So all of a sudden, every future that's associated with like an FX pair right now is literally telling us, yo, I don't know what you're even looking at. Okay, CT. Hey, guys, I have it in yellow. Why do you think I have it in yellow? Take a look at the market. What do you see right now? Right? Do you guys see it? Generally one-sided market, makes an attempt, stays one-sided, stage 1, accumulation, pausing on averages from a one-sided. Well, all of a sudden, you guys might see me trading cotton futures over the next few years. Because based on what we're seeing here, nothing's stopping this from going on a god run. That's where I can make my money on cotton. Do I care what the... But it's not a stock, Anton. Who cares? This is exceptional movement. So what do I wait for? You can see I have this analyzed and ready. Look at this move. Let me see it happen again. Done. Right? So now, I'm waiting for cotton to set up. It looks good. This looks amazing. If you're a lower time frame trader, let's take a look what you can be doing. As a lower time frame trader, what do? Set an alert. If price starts going higher or gaps up, this is a lower time frame trader's area to make money, and then it fails or whatever, or they make a fuck ton of money. That's it. This could be a crypto, this could be cotton, this could be anything. It doesn't matter. It's about the move that's actually happening. This is a phenomenal move. There is zero reason that I wouldn't want to put my money behind this, right? This maybe has already a setup, but let me see. How many hours does it have in a day? Let me see. Wednesday, Thursday. So about 14 hours. So you'd want to use like a 2 or 3 hour chart to trade this thing. Okay. So we had our stage 2, we had our flush, and I mean, maybe you had this as an entry, as your only entry. Then it fails down, nothing. Maybe here for a break even, and then nothing since then. So now what you're waiting for is, again, same thing. Stage 2 flush into setup, or bigger stage 2 into flush into setup. Okay? And that's it. And I'm just simply gonna wait for this to give me the opportunity for me to trade it. You can also maybe look at a 4 hour. Let's take a look at that really quick. Yeah, so on the 4 hour, there's been nothing on this yet, in my opinion, at least. Yeah, and now you have a market that you can potentially watch, and then you can keep going. All right, let me go to a weekly. Like, and then you just go through them. Like, again, it's great because if you just go through them this way, you start to very quickly see why a lot of the FX pairs that, you know, some people ask about are things that I'm not considering right now. Because, again, don't think about this. What does this remind you of right now? In terms of the way it moves, on average from what we've seen recently. It reminds me of what a lot of FX pairs look like, right? Now, is it the fact that now you could say that FX is just as bad as the ultra 10-year US Treasury? It's like, yeah, I mean, it's bad, but the problem is many people get attached to that 4 things in the pool, and if they're all doing poor things, they're like, it's crazy, FX is never good, it's crazy, how is FX like never ready, how is it never setting up, it's so absurd, like I thought this market could give us money and it's liquid and it should be amazing. But it's like, if you just did a little bit of the work and realize that if you look at a number of things, it just falls into the category of, oh, that's how it's moving, so it's not even worth considering, things become a lot easier, right? Look at this. Oh, this is an FX pair. There you go. Can you imagine somebody comes to me right now and goes, Anton, what do you think about me trading this distribution MB? Right, it's like, we can play that game. Yes, guys, right? This is a distribution. This is a momentum MB. But does this market tell you that it wants to or has moved in a direction and that this is the moment that it's ready to make that move? Or does this market scream a certain context to you? What goes on in your brain, right? Instead of me just telling you what happens in your brain when I show you this. Ready? Like, let's try our best. Okay, Anton taught me. So if I see some kind of distribution, then maybe I can trade there. Oh, and before, if I saw an accumulation like right here or here, there we go. Those could be opportunities. Okay. Okay, here we go. Let's zoom out. Let's look at it normally. What does this market tell you? Does it tell you that the accumulations that you've just drawn in and the distributions you've just drawn in, even the ones that are happening right now, are these telling you we are preparing for a move that is worth putting our money behind and putting risk behind because now we're going to get delivery? Or does this tell you that every time anything has happened on this, it has proven to be moving in one kind of way? All right, like, how are you going to look at this and say, you know what? Maybe I'll throw an attempt at it. Maybe I'll throw a dart, see what happens, right? And that brings us back to this right here, which is things can be good and things can work well and things will be good. during particular times. But if you're unaware of what to do during other times, like what's in front of you, and you start, again, trading the accumulation MBs or the distribution MBs associated with markets that look like this, there you go. If you trade any of these, what happens to your capital? And again, this is important because think about it this way. It doesn't matter how you're trading this, whether you're trading zones, thingies, fucking highs and lows, perfect liquidations to turn around, perfect Wyckoff schematics, or momentum, or cycles, or continuations. Regardless of whether you're long or short, in any of these areas, what happens on average, especially when these stop losses are smaller so you can try to make more money, what happens? Right? No matter what. Doesn't matter where you enter, if you're doing it off of zones, high, support, resist, trend line, anything, what happens? Your equity curve experiences what it should. You lose your account. And then what happens is, if you've made money before, or you've done well, the second the natural cycle comes to an end, this is why you've heard, by the way, guys, I just want to make this clear. This is why you have thousands. The fuck have I done? Oh no, no, not like this. Left click to zoom in. Right click to zoom out. Right click. Right click. Let me out, let me out. Nice. Okay. This is why you have heard so many times, and if you've experienced this, then it's very likely coming from this exact point. I learned something. And a lot of the time, you will find this in a lot of the retail education online, a lot of the smart money education online. I learned something. I made a lot of money doing it. So I know I can be profitable. I made a lot of money. I lost it all. Not even through risk, like not even through poor risk, just from natural market, right? I need better concept. I need to, fix my psychology. I need to get better concept. When in reality, they made money because they might have just they struck gold. They struck the market, and then they lost all their money because they don't understand that environments change and environments need to be respected. And if you don't respect environments, you get screwed over. If you don't respect environments, you get screwed over. So inevitably, no matter what you're trading, right? If you're trading the random liquidations of a random high or a low, and it's a solid market, then yes, you're going to make money because you can actually get into cycles that are delivering, right? Even if it's at the very start of it, if that's what you want to trade. But the second you go into the natural kind of market environment where things aren't as good, or things become very one-sided, and you don't know how to adhere to that with your system, you start losing money if you're trying to short against the market. And simultaneously, if you go into this, no matter what you do, because it doesn't matter, you lose money, right? Because it's all randomness now. Okay, so that's why a lot of the time you hear this kind of thing where it's like, I made some money, I know it works, I know I can make it happen, I lost it all, and it must be because of my psychology or something. It can't be because of my inability to read contexts. But this is where it comes from. The altcoin trader or the Bitcoin trader that traded Bitcoin over the last few, way back when, and made a lot of money, loses all their money because they don't foresee that things change. They don't have a way to distinguish and see that, right? I saw something really, let me see if I can bring it up. A lot of people probably know this guy. I don't know how true what he's saying is, but I'm just going to take a second to go over this. I just saw this randomly on my thing. And I'm assuming a lot of you guys know this guy, tech leader or whatever. But he made a video 10 days ago. He said, and he basically said, I was very bullish on crypto. I believed in crypto. I'm the crypto guy. He called himself. I don't even know if any of that's true. But either way, he said I'm the crypto guy, and I believe, based on what he's saying, he had millions in crypto, and he had it on margin too, and he had full belief in it. And with the most recent thing that's happened, he had to sell all of it. And he said he lost millions because of it, blah, 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 blah. And, all I could think about when I saw this is, this is where he is. This is where he exists. This is what happened, right? He made unbelievable money, continued to make unbelievable money. His buy and hold system worked amazing because the way that I kind of view this is he very likely began to buy into crypto on initial hype here. Then as this happened, he bought into huge hype here. Then, because of how much he's bought, because I believe he's a multimillionaire, right? He's probably worth even more millions up here. He probably bought even more here with margin. And right here, literally just this move, because remember, this is not a small move. This is an over 50% move down. This margin called him and made him lose most of his position. And he's out of it now. And I think that's what his video was about. So you can go watch it if you want. But I only bring this up because you have real examples of this happening every single day, even with multimillionaires. There's nothing special or new about this, right? The problem is, again, it doesn't matter what your system is, even if you're like that guy and you're just doing random shit, or if your system is as simple as, I got my highs and lows and all this crazy shit. If you don't have the ability to distinguish environment, you're going to experience this and lose all your money, right? The warning signs were there. This was the warning sign, right? It told you. It said, yo, you don't want to be in here. And now I guarantee you guys, most people that have been crypto-based traders have a average order price right now, probably around $105,000 or so. Like if you have any friends, literally do this for me. If you have any friends that were super invested and believed in crypto at their highest, literally go and look at their positions or ask them about it. Their average price is going to be 105K. And right now, all they're doing is praying that price gets back to at least like 80 or 90K so they can just sell at a small loss. Or if it can just somehow get to 100, they'll sell for a break even. I guarantee this. Go to any of your friends that have traded crypto or you've spoken to about Bitcoin or that have actually put their belief in it, and this is going to be the same story over and over again. Most people right now are trapped at around 105K. It's just my assumption. 105, 107, some even at 120. Done. And all of them are down almost 50% on their capital right now, praying it doesn't keep going, which is why we should know, just based on basic cycles and how things work, what the next step is. That will liquidate, margin call, and weekend out even more people that are bought in here. This will be the give up area, right? Or it's already happened to many. This was the give up area for the guy that we just looked at as an example in the video. Down here will be another give up area for more when it goes to 50K. And again, the cycle is just at hand. It's happening. It's in front of you, right? Sasha says, Anton, do you enter your long-term investments via the same strategy that you are using for trading? I don't have any long-term. But yes, you would use the exact same. Why not? You could also just use the C time frame of really liquid and big names and then get into those. Right. Francisco says, it's crazy to think that even people with a lot of money don't necessarily know how to trade. Of course. I don't think people understand this, but billionaires, billionaires lose a few $1 million a month on the same kind of actions and go, whoops, it's all good. It's the equivalent of if you have, $1 million to your name losing, 1K or $100 on a funded challenge, right? It's the exact same equivalent. Right, this is why I've said time and time again that if you focus on the cycles and the process that is taught, you will always be you will be aligned with the move that's at hand, and literally you'll have the opportunity, almost an endless bucket of opportunity for yourself, right? Because the mistakes never change. Making money does not change the mistake, right? there's people worth hundreds of millions of dollars that will lose 10K, 100K in a week on a stock and go, whoops, maybe I'll hold and see what happens, right? There are multi-hundred millionaires or whatever you call them, right? 100 millions of dollars of net worth that have, you know, like 10% of their net worth in Bitcoin, and they have 10% of their net worth in Bitcoin from up here, and they're simply down in the position, they're just holding and they don't care. And if it ever bounces back, then great, and if it doesn't, then they become basically the liquidity of the downside, right? Like, that's it. It's the same thing over and over again. Nothing has ever changed. Carl says, in the case that we use a prop firm and we cannot screen all the markets because a prop firm limits the options, what do you recommend? Screen the options you have. That's it. Or trade with more prop firms that have more opportunities and more options. Or get a personal account, even with a little bit of capital, so you have even more options. Remember, the whole point of trading, the whole goal of trading, is to add to your basin of things that you're willing or able to actively buy and sell. That's it. That's all trading is, guys. Nothing more. Like, let me put it this way. Let's go back, you know, 10 years right from right now. Just go back 10 years. You just randomly end up there. Somebody comes to you and says, yo, do you want this gold Charizard card from my Pokemon pack? Do you take it or not? And just as an FYI, over the last 10 years, these have gained like thousands of % in value. Do you buy as many as you can or not? Yes or no? If you just go, you know, like, you can go back and you just have the option to buy it or not. Like, that's it. You just have that option. Do you buy it or not? It's like no shit. Of course you do. Right? Of course, with the knowledge of today, you would, right? So think about it this way. That's its own market, right? That's a market that's not like necessarily publicly traded on the thing where we can just get in and out like that, right? It's a little bit different, but that is simply you having options to other assets. Now, because you have the benefit of hindsight now and knowing that it's going to gain in value, then great, you'd make that trade, right? A trade. But that would be on an asset that's super obscure, that no one's even thinking of, right? So it's really important to just kind of remember in your mind that, like, as traders, that's in a sense what we're doing. We're trying to add as much potential things that we can look at because those are opportunities to make money, right? That's all we're doing. So if you're limited by country, regulation, assets, whatever it is, if you're limited in some form, you know, find a way to get the most. That's what you want to do, right? Or trade the ones you can. There's nothing more to it. That's as far as it goes, right? Does that make sense, guys? BJ says, I have a Ment Equities watchlist and screener list. Yeah, this is awesome. This is awesome. That's exactly how you should be doing it, right? If you don't want to be on a personal yet and you simply, you know, and you want to have access to more assets or not even take the potential risk of having those assets because you're paying for an evaluation, then, you know, there you go. You have a way to do that for these assets particularly, right? And potentially others in the future. BJ says, it's not about having access to all markets. It's about having a system that you can apply to at least one market, then finding more to apply to. Exactly, right? Our whole game is, let's try to get as many things as we can look at and apply it, right? That's what trading is, right? Really just define trading for yourself. Trading is not, I'm going to open gold every day and pray that I catch 100 ticks or 1,000,000 ticks in a direction because it moves a lot and make money and gamble it, and then I'm going to be happy. That's what most people do, by the way. You know, the whole game of trading is, I'm going to just have access to assets. I'm going to look at them. I'm going to see the ones that are performing the best, and then I'm going to wait for the setup that meets my criteria, right? Because that's all it is. Now, I know we went a little off tangent, but there was actually a trade I wanted to talk about today from one of our members, and I just wanted to bring it up because I think it's something that is very useful for thought process and for personal improvement for a lot of you, and for just improving and just for simply putting yourself in a better mind space of how assets move, how things move, and literally kind of in seconding what we're kind of talking about right now, which is simply be open to it and then put your capital behind it and let the thing happen. Right, and this actually was an example from, I think he's here today, from our boy Eddie and Ollie and a few others. Let me see if I can find this. Because I think this was an exceptional example. Hopefully I can go, don't want to, actually let me do it this way so you guys, we can play a little bit of interaction here. We play a little bit of fun times together here. I want to go back here. Yeah, my man Eddie, he knows what's up. And it all kind of started right here, right? You had Landon, you had Eddie, you had Ollie, and a few other traders. So if I didn't name you, please, don't come at me. Like, even this was beautiful, blah blah. But initially, this was a setup on PanW that a lot of people took. A lot of people took this thing. It was right here. This was the setup. I even took it, by the way. It was on my list. Right, so this was the setup right here. A lot of people took this setup right here. I ended up break even on it because I managed way too quick. I literally broke even on it inside of this candle. I think you guys might remember me breaking it down. But this is PanW, okay? And a lot of people on this day had taken this trade. So Landon, Ollie, Eddie, and a few others maybe, right? So if I didn't name you, don't be upset. It's just that I don't see everything. I'm not the all-knowing. That's only for. It's only for God up there. But a lot of people had traded this thing. And, I was actually very proud of this trade from a lot of people because it's beautiful, right? And if we want to compare it to some of the stuff that we just looked at, which I think is important. So again, this is another example of active case studying to see what stuff that we just said looks bad and why it looks bad, right? So let's actually look at the EVC of this given trade. Here's the C that people traded, right? What do you see particular about this? What do you notice? What's up, Ollie? Good to see you. I didn't know you were here too, man. Appreciate it. Nice sign of strength after a huge stage one. Clean move out of a stage one. Alicia said not proper one-sided. I mean, I disagree. I think this has maintained from what it appears to be huge bullishness, reaccumulation, huge bullishness, little bit of chop here, huge stage one over time, and then literally without any other question, the most clear sign of strength out of that area that you could probably get, right? So overall general one-sidedness, overall no random breakdowns. When it started to kind of chop around, it built a huge stage one that, we never really came out of until boom, where from this candle you could have said maybe, from this candle you could have said for sure, and from this candle you could have said this thing is one-sided clearly. So for me this is one-sided, but that's up to, if that doesn't fit your rules, it's all good. But I think this looks like a very clean move personally, right? So again, this is a great starting point for the C, and just based on what we've done before, right? And this is important because I want to talk a little bit about allowing yourself to look at it from a larger perspective, right? Just based on how we've analyzed markets together over and over and over again, what is the next step of the C time frame here, based on just what we're looking at, right? How would you quantify this? What would you say about it? Like if you had to predict the next 10 candles or whatever, how would you do so? Carl says flush. Big T says needs to flush. Weekly short pause. Cassian says pause. So you guys have, I actually disagree with a lot of those answers just now. So this should be helpful for a lot of people. But when a market starts delivering, because again, could be just MMB1, right? It's touched the 5. Well, the next step is very clear. The next step should be stage 2 or stage 1 into stage 2. But what does cycles tell us? Right? Why would the first thing you expect on a delivering market be a breakdown? That would actually be something I'd want to ask you guys now, because that's interesting to me. That a lot of people just said, I want a short pause, I want to flush, I need it to pause. Where is that coming from? When you know that if something has started a move and guaranteed the move and proven that it wants to move, why would the first thing you say is I need a pause on it versus stage 2 expectation, right? Think about Bitcoin. What did I say back here a week ago? Did I say let it come back all the way? Or did I say next step is stage 2 or pause into stage 2? What does everything always start with? It's with the continuation. We don't play the game of needing to pause or needing to create a low to pause and then go. We play the game of we continue. So why was the first thought not stage 2 continuation? Why was your first thought pause or flush? Because I would be actually very interested in it. Fizzler says short pause is already there. That is why. I don't need it. It has made it. Expecting new highs. Yep, I agree. Francisco says it feels extended. Yeah, but what do the markets that feel extended tend to do? Francisco. Yeah, right? And then the better question is, why is this not considered a even if you were looking for a pause, why is this right here not considered a pause? There you go. Why is that not considered a pause? Price started to move, accumulated out of this huge area, off of a already moving market, accumulated out clearly with multiple candles. Stage 1 pause to the 5, which is our starting base rule. Why would your first assumption here be we need to re-flush down? Think about that for a second, right? So notice this, like these are people that have been through the portal, know the material inside and out, understand it. And what's the first thing that happens? What's the first thing that every inch of your body is telling you? No, we must pause. There must be a flush before we go. I actually did not think we'd be stumped here, personally. So this is good, because hopefully this re-ignites and reminds you what to look for when you look at things. Because we're looking at a C, right? We're looking at a C time frame. So what is a C time frame that's already delivering? Sound is lost? Better. What the fuck? Let's see what we got here. Ooh. Sneak into the office. All right, guys. Hello. You're on Zoom? All of you are on Zoom? Alrighty. Zoom it is. Hey, what's up, guys? Eddie says he can hear. Good. Very good. There we go. All right. Are we better? Is everything okay? We continue from here or what? It seems like Eddie can hear. So maybe it's just, I think it's a Discord issue. If it fixes, great. Otherwise, it is what it is. I think we'll continue from here, though. And then we'll see what's up. But I see some people message some stuff, so let's take a look from there. So I think we ended off on the fact that from here, right, from this exact moment here, what should where should the brain take you, right, ultimately? And in my book, I agree, right? It's either it continues to pause deeper, by all means, we know that can happen, but stage 2 is where we're at, right? Like, that's it. That's all the expectation should be. And it shouldn't be any harder than that, because we then will redefine this by the V in the daily, and then we'll actually get our entry on the E. But there shouldn't be anything beyond that, because at that point we're just trying to speculate a given direction on this, right? Which is asking for disaster, right? So, and you can look at past moves and past names and things and come to similar discussions where it's like, okay, here, for instance, right? Why would you not consider that stage 2 is going to continue delivering unless the V tells you something else? Here, why would you say that the C needs to go deeper to like 20 instead of knowing that it either continues unless the V tells you it wants to do something else? Same thing here, right? You need to always allow the move to just be created and then follow the move. You don't want to try to, like, even here, right? Like here. This doesn't have to necessarily pause. Even here. It doesn't have to pause. It can just go, right? The expectation would be stage 2. So that's an important thing to remember, which is that You don't want to bend price to your will. Just let the price do what it needs to do and ask yourself what cycle you're in and then play that cycle. Okay, so let me see what you guys said. Hala says, I always think why this is not a pause when it is still a pause. Some gut feelings say it needs to go into a good flush. But where does a flush come from, Hala? That's the real starting point of the question. Oh, the camera's dead. Okay, hold on. So Hala, while we're here, let me fix the camera. What is a good flush, and what time frame does a flush come on? What is a flush to start with? Is that associated with the C, the V, or the E? Let's start there. When we think about flushing. All right. So Hala, where does a flush come from? The C, the V, or the E? That's going to be where we always should start our discussion. Oh, Hala says I don't have Zoom. Well, shit. Hala's in deep shit. Well, maybe she'll see it later. But yeah, right? A relevant flush, right? Literally. Let's actually just do it this way so it's super clear, and doesn't like, we don't forget it. A relevant flush comes from, in a sense, just the entry cycle, right? It's on the entry cycle. It's a flush to or below like the averages, right? It's this. That's what a flush is. The flush is the deeper flush, right? Yeah, you guys are right. So if we know that a flush is naturally off of the E time frame, right, where we're literally flushing on the E time frame to and below the 20, why is the C time frame something where we're like, we need to see the flush? Why? What tells you if a C time frame needs a flush? What's the thing that tells you a C time frame needs to not flush but needs to pull back to even the 5? What is the thing that tells you that? Yes, money's on the money. A fourth MMB. But where does that come from? Does that come from a C? Sorry, wait, it's even further than that. It's not just the fourth MMB. It's actually the fourth MMB of a V, right? Because that's what's defining the C move. So, if I go inside of this, and I look at the overall accumulation, and I go, okay, 1, 2, 3. Is this telling us that price needs to go here and then reset? Or is price telling us that we're at 3 MMBs, so the likelihood of delivery is continuation, maybe even another pause, and then continuation, and then breakdown? Which one is it? Is price right now at this point, which is where a lot of people said we need a deeper flush, telling us we need to see this happen and then this? Why are we forcing the downside of price here? Think about it that way. What? Because a few people here, right? A few people dropped in and literally said we need the flush on the C. We need a deeper pause. Why? Where? Where and why? The market has proven delivery, proven accumulation, proven the willingness to want to go, proven it through that point. So even if you think about it, like this is the accumulation. So if anything, this could be the MMB1, this could be the MMB2. You might not even count this based on where we are in this market. So right now, everything about this is saying maybe 3, 4, right? Or 4, and then we break down. So what about this at any point is screaming, I might be extended and I need to really pause? Other than your own mentality and your own emotion saying, it's made a big move, right? So for those of you that did say, it needs to flush or whatever, have you come out of that understanding and understand how when we look at this, we simply assume delivery? Or do you have a follow-up where you're still confused about why that is the case? And if you have the follow-up, let's talk about it, right? Because I want to make sure that you understand. Cassian says, I've ended up taking trades in that kind of price action at quite a few times, and they often hit my stop because price needed a bigger stage one first. Maybe, that might be one reason, but it just could also be the simple reason that entries because I know you're part of the personalized, and we're gonna go over some of your stuff because I opened up your data and we're gonna process that and take a look at it. But I've noticed some of your entries are very different from each other, so that's gonna be one thing that's really important. Two, one of the reasons that can happen is because the V might not even be in an area worth trading. Three, it could be because of relativity, right? In terms of what the overall markets are doing or the markets associated with that market. So there's multiple things there. Don't get me wrong. So there's more than just the fact that the C has made a move. Right, that's really important to remember, because you're going to find, you of course will experience the examples of where the C's up here, so like it might need a deeper pullback, but there's also going to be times where, like this, right? So Cassian, the big question here is, if you didn't trade this expecting a deeper pullback, you're fucked. If you don't trade this expecting a deeper pullback, you're fucked. If you don't trade this expecting a deeper pullback, you're screwed. If you don't trade here expecting a deeper pullback, you're screwed, right? Like, you miss out on that move. Like, this is, again, the same thing. Look at this. Right? It's relatively the same. Hugely delivering market. Continuing crazy. Pauses for less than 2 candles. Barely touches the 5. Makes a crazy move. Right? I traded in that. Look. Here, you might even say that. I need a deeper pullback. You just missed out on, I think this was 15R. Here, you might say I need a deeper pullback. That's another 15R right there. Right? You see that? So let me go like this. This was a 15R trade for me. That, right? This is even more strong than the market we just looked at. But why do I keep expecting the stage 2? Because I'm playing the cycle. And I'm asking myself, where are we in that cycle? And when I look at this, I see accumulation, 1, like 2 or 3, 4. Well, if this is 4, or 3 or 4, there should be delivery, and then we can expect the actual flush. So again, where do I expect a flush or a breakdown or a reaccumulation? Not simply because the C has delivered. The expectation comes from the fact that the V has played out its cycle, which is a very big difference, right? And Cassian, the way I want you to further think about this is, because I traded this, what happened? Here and back here, right? That made me around 25R total. If I trade 25 more spots like this, do you think I'm I'm likelier to take 25 losses in a row, or take some losses then another win? That's how you have to judge this, right? Does that make sense? So do you see what I'm saying there? Where because I've made 25R from trading that area. If I trade 25 more now, do you think I go into 25 loss streak? Or I take at least 1, 2, or 3 wins out of those 25 next trades? So, if I take a trade on Pan W right here, which I actually did. I took it just to break even on it. But if I took a trade here, and I took 25 more trades like this one, is it likelier to end in 25 losses, or, a play between losses, break-evens, and potentially wins? That's how you have to think about it. So you cannot get attached to the fact that a move might have happened or might have been big, because you have to play what's at hand. Similar thing happened to gold. Like, I would have stopped trading this. I think you guys remember. I think I stopped trading this. Let me see. So we kind of had this reaccumulation, then you kind of had like 1 or 1/2, 3, 4, and then I believe I pretty much stopped trading most of. Oh no, and then you had this thing that acted almost like a reset because of this mini reaccumulation, especially on other gold pairs. And then you again had like 1-ish or 1-ish, 1-2, 2-3, 3-4, 4, right? And as this is happening, if you are then scared to execute this because, you know, like this has made a large move and then it's up here and you're like, I want to see it come down deeper, you know, you miss out on this next leg. This will happen over and over again across multiple, like over thousands of assets. But you can't just let the C, because it's made a move, be the end all be all, right? Because like everything about this is saying stage 2, stage 2, stage 2. Think about RXT. I just traded this for 2 losses, right? Look where it was. That's where it was. But why is it that I'm trading it? Well, because again, from a simple standpoint of what we do, the next move is this, right? It's just that. Done. Boom. There it is, right? Stage 1, stage 2, stage 1, stage 2. That's the next move. That's all I can do. That's all I can play. And then it's my goal now to define and actually validate that on the V and E, right? Priscilla says, but what if a deeper pullback is part of our rules while we're doing data collection? I thought you said you have very strict rules initially. Then that's fine. Of course. If you want your C timeframes to pull back more, that's fine. But you have to remember this. What does it mean for your C timeframe to actually pull back? Okay? What I mean by that is, are you not trading this C because you're only getting involved after a perfect leg like that and then in that leg? So like you're only getting involved in these areas? Or are you willing to trade the C here because it's a continuation of this move? Right? Because to me, this is the stage 2, right? So I can trade the V timeframe setups in here. Otherwise, your rule set is simply that you will only trade the MMB 1 or 2 out of a reaccumulation. And if that's the case, then yes, of course, you now want to wait for this to break down, reaccumulate, and then you can trade here. So that's a very important thing. That's the difference between what we're talking about right now, right? Because if your rule is to see that flush, then you're only trading reaccumulations like this. You're not trading the continuation of like more MMBs. Does that make sense, Priscilla? Inspire says, is a pullback and the flush the same thing? Partly. A pullback on the V will be the flush on a E. Priscilla says, yeah, my C requires MMB 1 through 3 entries that pull back to 10/20, then V equals MMB 1 only. Okay, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem for me, or at least what I've noticed, is that if I have a really good market or a really well-defined market, you probably aren't going to get those pullbacks. And if it's a strong market, I want to be in it. I don't mind if it doesn't make the perfect all the way down pullback on the C. I care that the V pullbacks are perfect and the C time frame has defined the move. Okay? Nonetheless, back to this. When I see this, my first expectancy is stage 2, of course. And then I can define that again with the V, which is MMB1 or 1-2, 2-3. So everything about this is pointing towards one delivery and one thing. And that is continuation higher. Now, this is where it gets really interesting because as the trade played out, the people in the trade began to feel a little bit uncertain of it. Because during this time, it's actually very interesting, during this time, a lot of markets, including the overall Nasdaq market, were actually going sideways or correcting and actually going down. So during this time, a lot of the people in this started to ask the questions like, hey, Anton, I don't have it right now, but you guys know it happened, and it's fine. People can say this to you as well. They said, hey, Anton, I'm in this move, and really, like, what do you do in times like this where prices start going, but then they just stagnate? They don't go. They don't deliver. Should I just close the position? Should I just do this? X, Y, Z. And I was like, whoa. What the fuck? At this point, it became a game of, because they were in the trade, they began to almost look for excuses to exit. Which is weird because, again, what is now the defined model or leg you're in? Well, go back to your C. Zoom out of the move because you're in the move. Zoom out of it. What is the move still telling you? Is this move telling you, yeah, I need that? Or is this move telling you, I am in my stage 2? The next 3 candles on this could be 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3. Right? What is the move telling you? Is it layering itself towards stage 2? Or is it screaming, I need to go down? I need to go down. Now, if you're zoomed into that hourly, of course, it can feel like, these things are slowing down, nothing's happening, but it's not about what the hourly is doing. That's not how you're managing. You're not managing based on how do I feel about this thing. You're managing based on the move you got in. And what's that move? Well, it's defined by the EVC. Delivery. What's the daily telling you? And this is where I sent this message. I said, because he said, what do I do? It's my man Eddie. When it comes to this, what do you think I should do? Should I get out of it? Blah, blah. I said, nothing. Nothing is stopping it from doing this. And I drew in 2 candles. Because look at the delivery. We have MMB delivery. The cycle is present. The cycle is delivering. What is stopping this market when we zoom out to the C and the V? And I drew 2 candles. What is stopping this thing from going 1, 2? I sent this before it ever happened. Look, you can see his live price. This was sent to him. What is stopping it? And then we had a few people confirm, YR, my boy, I've been looking at your trade and I genuinely would expect the weekly to look. He went even further. He went to the weekly and just drew 2 candles. 1, 2. What is stopping this thing from going 1, 2? Done. What is stopping that? Nothing. Nothing is stopping this from happening except the person's active trades and the emotions associated with it going, well, the hourly is not delivering, so maybe I should just get out. But instead, he stayed in. And even if he managed the way I manage, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher, and then you're waiting, so maybe you have your stop here or here. Yeah. And all of a sudden, the exact drawing I had, nothing stopping 2 candles from doing this, nothing stopping the weekly from making a stage 2, there you are. And all of a sudden, this trader, so this is for specifically Eddie, Ollie, and anyone else that was actually in this, gained a new respect, probably, in their own systems, for how management makes you money without necessarily having to confine yourself to the hourly is not delivering fast enough. Because what does that actually mean? Like, what does it mean for the hourly not to deliver fast enough? Has your case study told you to look at the hourly and be like, oh, since it's pausing, I should get out? Or has your case study said, every time you get in, manage the trade and see what happens, and all of a sudden, this thing's up an extra 30%. Literally, within the next 3 days. From, I don't know if it's going to ever deliver, to, oh, right, that's what moves look like. Got it. Which is why I started our whole discussion, not with, what's the hourly doing? Ooh, the whole discussion started with what? What's our C doing? What's its expectation? And then let's validate it. Does the V allow us to do something here? Yeah? Okay, great. There's nothing more. You're taking the trade because of what... So here's the thing, right? So like for Eddie specifically, right? Why'd you take the trade? Was it because the hourly made a double MB? Or was it because the C was showing a potential stage 2 and the V was not extended and paused well? Which one was it? Was it because the E was amazing? Or was it because these 2 things that superseded the E were telling you, I want to go? Right? Well, of course, it's just like the portal teaches you. It's because we learn to see what's going to create continuation and what's going to want to go. And we waited for that thing to happen. So if you created the precedent with the V and the C, then why the fuck are we then looking at the E going, it's a little bit slower, That's not good, especially during a time where the whole market was failing, right? Remember this. The whole market was like breaking down and shit and sideways, and Pan W was like, I am being bought up slowly. I do not want to go lower. I'm still holding every low and just going higher with the averages. And you were going, maybe I just got to close this trade. And let me ask you, from the point that you said maybe I should close this trade to where it is now, or to, you know, what it did, how much RR was added to the bottom line on the trade alone? Not from partials, but from the trade. Because I think that number is going to enlighten, hopefully, a number of traders that experience the same thing. So that's for Eddie to help us out with. Thinkerbell says, you need to trust where you are in the higher time frame for sure. I think some may need to remember every time frame exists in its own entry cycle, which is creating MMBs on a higher time frame. Yep. Hollis says, so will that make JUR40 valid if the daily is my context time frame, if it came out of a long-term stage 1 but I did not have a pullback yet? Maybe. Let's take a look. JUR40 on a daily. This thing has been going sideways a lot. This is the first time it's finally come out of a big stage 1. So if this is your C time frame, then yeah, why do you need this to pause? Your accumulation has happened on your C time frame. Here it is. That's your white time frame, your C time frame, which means how many hours are there in JUR40 daily? Let's see, Friday, Thursday, like around 15 hours or so. So there's like, okay, so we want to use so 6 over 20, 10 over 20. So we want to use like a 3-hour chart, 3 hours or 4-hour chart or so. Right, so this is where you'd be waiting for your first trade. This would, for me, not pause. This is not pause enough. So, you know, this is pretty choppy, so this is bad. But yeah, if this pauses, why can't you trade that? Right? And then 3 hours, 180 over 6 is 30. It's 30-minute entries. Right, so this hasn't flushed yet. So now you just be waiting stage 2 for flush. Right? That's it. But yeah, why would you have to have this break down and pull back to the 20 before you can trade it? That makes no sense, right? This would be the accumulation. And now, right, what's the steps of this? Well, it could just stage 2. That's what we wait for, but we validate that, right? We validate it with our EVC. Right now, that's not happening, right? There's nothing here. We accumulated, we might have 1 or 1-2. This would be 2-3. MMB2, this is where we want to trade, right? For Holla. BJ, enjoy church, brother. We're about to wrap up here as well, so no worries, man. I appreciate you. Holla, good. I'm glad you got that. Exactly, right? So you don't have to overcomplicate the fact that, you know, if the C is clear, it doesn't matter if the C looks extended. That doesn't mean shit, right? Because, like, think about it this way, Holla. If this thing does want to pause on the C, what does that mean for the V? The V will go through its whole reaccumulation. Great. If it doesn't, then this is going to be the V MMB pause, and if it's clean, then why can't you get this stage 2 move? Right? Lots of confusion cleared up today. Let's go! Let's go! I'm glad. And Eddie says 17R. It went up another 17R. Guys, think about that just for a second. From wanting to close because the move did not feel like it's delivering, to within 2 days, up an extra 17R! What's 17? With 1% risk. That's 17%! You guys want to know what 17% is? That's 2 to 3 years of a hedge fund's performance. 2 to 3 years in one trade. By just simply saying, fuck it, I'm gonna let the rule do what it needs to do and let the trade maybe move. One trade. One. Priscilla, are you still looking over people's data collection sheet and giving feedback? Yes, if and when we have time. Otherwise, so for Priscilla and for a few others that are part of it, on my website, there's a personalized option where you can actually submit twice a month a trade or a particular trade, your EBC and your problem, and you actually get a write-up from me about your own things and then what to focus on. So that's an option. But if we have time during webinars, I will always look over stuff if I can, always. But right now we're not going to have time today because we're going to look at a few examples, trades, a few markets and stuff. So we might not have the time today to do that. But like during intro week and stuff, like if there's time, then yes. But there's a personalized option that I've been doing with a lot of people right now that we do the exact same thing but it's much more, it's on the website. Everything's on the website. Just go check it out on the website, mentfx.com. Andre says, watch the course. Yeah, literally. But notice what happened there, right? Even to Eddie, like, and maybe you can offer me a little bit of information here, Eddie, right? How has your own perspective now of, let's call them, because I call this the fluke win, right? Where all of a sudden, just from simply being in the trade, all of a sudden this fluke win happens. How has that now affected your own mentality regarding trading management, future trading and management, and what you're going to start doing, right? Has it in any way, or are you still like, this was just a lucky one-off? You know, like, how do you actually feel? I would like to know, right? Are you in this headspace of like, this was a lucky one-off, or has it changed the way that you are going to approach, let's say, trading in general? And while he types that, yeah, I'll actually wait for that. Give me a sec here. Let's see what I can do. Oh yeah, so that's for JER 40. Yeah, this has been a little bit like choppier and uglier. Like, you can even see this. Like, this was an MMB. I would never trade this MMB. It's way too hard for me to trade, right? But this was the MMB that happened, double MB, triple MMB, and then you're delivering now, right? So this did set up. And, you know, the next steps of this are, well, you just deliver further, or you pause and then keep delivering, all right? And that's it. And we know that. So that's what we wait for. Andre, are you picking the accountability winners today? No. I will post accountability winners and do it fairly, and I'll even record if I ought to. You can see I even wrote it here. June winners, they're gonna be rolled for giveaway. Like, I still have to roll them, and the only reason is because I've added a stipulation for the personalized that any. Sorry, I can't see this. Just anyone in the personalized actually gets to enter the accountability giveaway without having to ever post. So I'm just simply adding those names, and then we're gonna run the thing simply for my man Andre. But I didn't forget at all. It'll be done. You'll see it in there, and I'll reach out to every winner. And that's what I've actually done. I've reached out to everybody, and if I haven't, then you're hearing from me too. Now Eddie says it taught him way more patient management wise. Shows me I'm willing to hold the position for a long time as it still meets my management rules. Yeah, that's amazing. Right? So, and that's what's going to happen to a lot of people, right? So the first time that you actually experience what I call the fluke win, I made a mini video about this, but the first time you experience a fluke win, because it's going to happen eventually, right? You're going to start trading. You're going to start trading like now or later. You're going to do your back test, your forward test, or even your live. And you're going to start trading, and you're going to be taking your losses, which is going to be the natural. You're going to be taking your losses, your small break-evens, your break-evens, your losses, your break-evens. It's going to just feel like natural. Nothing's going to be happening. This will happen over like time. This could be a week. This could be a month. It doesn't really matter. You're going to have time of nothing happening, and you're going to be like, damn, what the fuck? Like, what's going on? Then you're going to have a tiny win, and you're going to be like, well, this doesn't even make up for this. So this is where the most important thing that happens to any trader happens. So this is what I call the first time flight. You guys have heard me talk about this, but basically it's your first time flying a big plane as a pilot. It's the first time you've ever done it. The problem is it lasts a lot longer than anything else, right? The first time somebody flies a plane, it takes them 3 hours. They've done it, they can move on. The first time a trader trades a real system, it's going to take them anywhere from 1 to 24 months to experience it. And usually it's more towards this 24-month side, because you need a real amount of data, a real amount of trading to say, holy shit, I know what I'm doing. But what's going to happen is, as this happens, right, you're going to take your first like small win, and you're going to look at your curve and you're going to be like, I'm fucked, right? Because in a sense, you're going to feel, because what this represents, and then the future of losses, break-evens, and losses and small wins, all this represents, right, is what I call the endless pit of losses. right? Because the way it feels in these moments is that your losses are endless pits, your wins do nothing, your break-evens stop you from losing more, your losses are fucking you, your break-evens stop you from losing more, your wins take you to like nowhere, and then your losses keep you losing, and your break-evens do nothing. And then you're going to take some wins in a row, and that's going to be like, okay, maybe I'm here now, and I'm still like taking loss and break-evens, and you're like, I've been at break-even forever, even for, in some cases it could be one. This is 24 months, right? So again, think about the timeline, but it can happen for a long time because this is how time works in trading. And this endless pit of losses, or this endless pit of despair, however you want to call it, it feels endless, right? It literally feels like it's forever. And what's really interesting is even if you get really lucky, so let's make a big circle. Let's call this the big win, because it will happen. And it could happen here, it could happen here, it could happen here. It doesn't matter where it happens. You will have this happen, though. This could be your Pan W's of the world, this could be your STX, this could be anything. It could be Bitcoin, it could be you trading altcoins and randomly going on a 30R winner. It's going to happen. And even if it happens in the beginning, or after all of this, your curve will do something like this. It might go to break even, or it might be in profit. And the funny thing is, here you think that everyone will feel better, but it's the complete opposite. Because after your first even big win, or even after your first multiple big wins, there you go. Boom. The natural thing repeats, because it has to. Onwards and onwards, we'll do dots to represent it. So, you know, the natural thing will repeat, and it's again the same thing, and it's pit of despair. And what happens is, you call these flukes, fluke wins, because again, what you start to do is you associate this with being lucky. You associate it with, it just so happened that the management worked out. It just so happened that when I traded Pan W, right, and you traded this and you managed it, you got lucky because when you moved your stop here, it didn't stop you out, and then when you moved your stop here, when it started moving higher, it barely didn't stop you out, and then it went, so it must have been luck. So we call it a fluke win, right? This will all happen over all this period of time, even if you take multiple of them. And an even worser thing to happen is that you take a fluke win at the very beginning. So if you take one of these big wins here and then this happens, you're even likelier to go into a bigger endless pit of despair, because you feel like all the money you made, you've actually lost now, and now you're losing even more versus just losing money. It's easier to just lose money and be like, nothing fucking works, it sucks, than to make money and then lose more than you've made. Right? That it sucks even more because you've lost winnings, which psychologically fucks you even harder. But what's going to happen is, the more fluke win that you have, all of a sudden, you're going to have fluke win, endless despair. Fluke win, endless despair. Fluke win, endless despair. Endless despair, fluke win, endless despair. Fluke win, endless despair. Fluke win, endless despair. Fluke win. And now all of a sudden, you kind of look at this and you go, it seems like the fluke wins are not flukes. And it seems that as long as I go through my despair without stopping, all of a sudden the despair seems like a pause. The despair seems like a pause, and the despair seems like a pause. So if I stop allowing the emotion of despair to actually affect my trading, the flukes keep happening. But if a fluke keeps happening, that must mean it's not a fluke. And that must mean that if I keep experiencing them, now I understand trading. Now I've finished and I've landed my plane and I'm ready for the next flight. Because it's no longer about taking this random thing that made no sense and somehow it worked out. It's about letting that thing happen again and again and again because you're willing to sit through the quote-unquote despair, which you now have learned is simply a pause before the continuation. Right? So that's what happens to a lot of traders, especially like what Eddie had experienced. Right? And I'm assuming this has happened in his mind. Maybe he hasn't verbalized it, but I assume this is what happens in his mind, which is the thing that feels like a fluke or that felt like a fluke is kind of starting to happen more often. And it's kind of saving my curve. And my curve is it increasing? Right? And he posted this too. Yeah, and before it literally was that, right? Wait, where is it? Which one? Which one? This one, right? Right here? Wait, where's the most recent win? What the fuck's that at, bro? But yeah, that's what's going to happen to a lot of people, right? And that's where you want to move your mind towards. Because that's what's going to happen. As long as you allow yourself to keep doing it, which a lot of people won't. And don't forget this, guys. Most people won't keep doing it because they don't even have a fucking system to start with. Not having a system and then experiencing this is going to drive you crazy. Crazy. Which is why you need a system first. But if you allow yourself to have the system, and then you just let yourself experience it, the flukes will become part of your journey. It will become something that you define as something guaranteed to happen. Because once your curve starts doing this, which it will, it might not do it in this exact clear way, or in this super clean way. And again, you can use any number you want here. It doesn't have to do it in this exact clean way or this exact clear way. All it has to do is do this with time, and it will happen. Some of you will have deeper drawdowns and then wins. Some of you will have even longer drawdowns before wins, right? But if you add at least 300, 500, as you add those trades, it will go up. There's nothing else that it can do. And you'll look back at it and you'll say, holy shit. The times where it feels impossible are actually just natural pausing points, and they need to happen, right? And there'll be nothing, and there's nothing more to worry about. Okay. Hollis said, can you please go on JPN 225D as my C? It's choppy. But if it starts moving up, then you can play something on the lower for sure. Daily went into accumulation. It's overall an accumulation, has been an accumulation for a while. Making MMBs as it moves higher, likely a reaccumulation or reaccumulation again. So yeah, if it reaccumulates, you can play it, but there's nothing to do otherwise. What you would be waiting for is accumulation out of here. Look at this. This is really hard to trade. You need to set like an alert up here, and you're just waiting because your V hasn't even moved out of this. You need your V to move out, prove accumulation, and then you can trade legs. There's nothing here. This is chop right now, right? This is pure chop. What do you think about Frog? Yeah, I remember this. This was super clean. And I think this was actually also a semiconductor, so it made sense during the time. But let's look at the C. Yeah, you had clean delivery on this. Came out of this huge, like, it was going sideways here for a while, then it went to accumulation, broke down accumulation, and then proved pure accumulation up here. Went into MMB 1, 2, and then reaccumulated. So showed a lot of strength here. Now it's an accumulation MB. So that's really good. Your best trade on this thing was here. And since then, there's nothing. There's no pause yet. You need to set an alert like right here and just wait for this thing to actually create an MMB, right? Otherwise, you're doing nothing. But yeah, this is strong. And I think it's a semiconductor. And inside of the semiconductor space, you can see a lot of stuff is reaccumulating or weak still, which means this is exceptional. Right, what is Frog? I think that's what it is. If it's not a semiconductor, it might be I think it is. But yeah, it's really good. It's really strong. There's nothing to do right now. I would set alerts and just chill on the side. Like, I'll add this to my list as well for now. I believe it's semiconductor, but I'll have to check later. It might even be tech and cloud, but I'm not sure. We'll move this to the top because it is very strong. It might actually be actually tech, it looks like. But yeah, it's really strong. It looks really good. If this can pause, that's going to be phenomenal. And you can already see, there it is. Beautiful stage 2. Let the flush happen. Your trade's going to happen around here, and there you go, right? You can set the alert, and you just wait. Nothing else to do on this because it hasn't set up yet, right? So you just let this thing flush out. WWYD for NTAP, isn't it kind of a reaccumulation? What does WWYD for NTAP mean? What about hood? Hood. Hood is what? It's like brokerage. So it's kind of random right now in terms of the fact that they're like brokerages aren't showing up as like huge things right now. You have JPM's kind of like a brokerage. Okay, you have like maybe Bank of America and stuff. Okay, I mean some of them are maybe moving into some bullishness. You have definitely a one-sided accumulation. It started distributing. I should try to sell it here, but then it did reaccumulate through kind of this point here. It's just moved into accumulation right now. You kind of have this 1, 2. I mean, yeah, if you trade it here, that's fine. Otherwise, there's not much to do up here. Like, this should now be in profit for you, right? Yeah, like this trade was actually really nice. This set up perfectly, and that moved. So yeah, that was good. I don't know if I would personally trade it. I mean, it looks solid. It accumulated out of here, clearly. Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's a good trade. If you traded this was solid. Is that where you traded? Oh no, this is shit. This is terrible. This is a random entry. This was the entry right here. Right here was the entry. Then it moved. Then it flushed. And if you did see this as a flush, the entry would be right there through that high. Right there. This entry was random. And if you're entering just into candles, like into accumulation-based candles, you have to be using bigger stops based on just naturally how moves work. Because the likelihood of this is just to repause. So if you're buy stopping here, right, you have to use a bigger stop. Or you buy stopped here and got stopped out with this, which again would be because you literally entered into 1, 2, 3, you entered into like the third delivery without even a pause. So you were asking to get stopped out there. Yeah. Yeah. Anton, I'm late to the webinar. Thoughts on gold and NQ on lowers? Let's take a look at all that. So I did some updates on NASDAQ throughout the week. This is where we are. This should tell you a very simple story about the lowers, though, too. This should tell you lowers are going to be in complete chop fest, just like we spoke about last week, right? So you're remember where we are, right? C time frame, what's it telling us? Just like we did before, guys, stage 2. That's it. We're literally making the MMB1 right now of the C time frame. Right, so that's super simple. So the expectation is to continue this, right? The V time frame is in that reaccumulation. So just like right here, I said, okay, we moved into accumulation. Let's see it deliver. We paused instead, and we came kind of back inside the stage 1. So right now we're building the potential MMB1 of this leg, or we're just setting up for another accumulation later, which means overall we're bullish or sideways into bullish, all right? Sideways into bullish, or just sideways, like, and then we do nothing for a while, or we wait for the bullish, which means you translate that into your lowers as you see fit, right? Because there you are. The hourly is literally going to tell you we are nowhere. It's doing what? It's doing this. Your hourly is doing this, which means what? If you're trading this on a lower, you are actively choosing to fuck yourself, right? You need to wait for a one-sided market and to come out of an area. So this is, again, where NQ traders, you need to take a big pause and you need to wait, right? You can have your alert set down here, like I did from last week or 2 weeks ago. And if it starts to gap down, then yes, you can play the leg here. Or you can set your alerts up here, which is the one that I would prefer. I would prefer this right here. And if you start getting gaps up through this, this is the legs, and these are the trades, and these will be the trades that you want to play on a lower. Make sense? Again, do not try to predict random highs and lows and continuations, because again, this is how you fuck yourself very easily. And you start getting chopped up and you wonder what you're doing wrong. This is what's happening right now. This is the environment you are entering at the moment on NQ, on NASDAQ, on a lower time frame. You need to wait for this. You need to wait for this. You need to wait for it to come and prove that it wants to move to a direction. Right now, you do not have that. So if you, in a sense, here is your no touch zone, right? Make sense? Anybody confused about that?
Looks like we're good. Okay, cool. And then gold. Gold. Just look at GLD to make it clean and simple. Yeah, so gold is in distribution. The exact same distribution we spoke about last week. And same thing goes, just like I said, expectation stage 2 lower. This is what we're playing inside of. What does that mean for lowers? This is where we were. I wanted to see continuation lower. As the week begun, take a look. Price began to break down. Nothing happened, right? Here was the low. Nothing happened. And it went back into its range. So what is this likely meaning? Well, we're likely just going to be kind of going sideways. On the bright side, though, on the hourly, if you are looking at super low, you kind of have a one-sided market delivery, which is solid. You're building a big stage 1 right now. So set an alert, or you can even start looking for some long start of this week on super low time frames, like on your 6-minute and 45-second charts. Let's take a look. Yeah. So start of this week, right? If you can get your V to pop out of this accumulation and pause, like why can't, yeah, you can trade these for sure. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you can align and wait for the downside if you want, or you can play this clear C time frame that delivered to one side and is starting to accumulate out. If anything, I would just start like an alert maybe here and let it come out and accumulate, and then you can play the legs inside of this stage 2. So this is likely to happen this week if we get a move out. Okay, otherwise there's nothing to do at all. So, and just so you guys know, I actually was trying to short gold. I wanted to get short on this, just so you guys all know. Right here, I even drew this from last week. Let me go like this. I drew this from last week. This is the MMB I wanted to play short. Right? I was willing to put money behind this. This was a beautiful stage 2, beautiful pause. I wanted to see this to continue down here. Right? So like your equivalent would be, I wanted to see this continue to like down here. Right? Gold, GC, whatever. Like they're all the same thing. I want to see them all continue down. And instead of doing that, we just started to come back up. And there was no move out of this. It just broke down and then started to pause, and now it's up here. So again, we're still, if you flip this, we are still part of this flush, right? So for me, what do I want to see? Well, to me, this is an MMB being built, right? So I want to look for this. So what am I going to do this week? Set my alert, because I'm not trying to play the opposite side, of course, and wait for this, and I'll look to trade that. And that would be a phenomenal trade. Stage 2, flush, and I'll look to trade that. And look at the beautiful thing. If you're lower time frame, let me reinvert this. If you're lower time frame and you set that alert here and it starts making that stage 2, this is your money to be made before it does whatever it does. Great. If you're a higher time frame, well, there you go. You set your alert here. So if the higher time frame alert goes off, then you can play that leg. If the lower time frame alert goes off, you can play that leg, but I'm not playing this because I'm not on the lowers. Anyone confused? Let me reinvert this. There we go. So yeah, I'm gonna look to short this personally right here, like around these points. So I'm actually gonna add gold here because gold is starting to look really good. And I'll add, we'll just put it all the way up here with the rest of with all these. Just put it up here. We'll add XAU USD. Well, I'll probably trade it through XAU USD. We'll add the futures. We'll add gold. Where is it? Oh, it's already there. Okay, cool. Now I'll move this up as well. There we go. Put gold all together. Yeah, so gold is looking really good for shorts. And like that's the thing, right? If you're lower time frame oriented, what I would rather wait for is for this C time frame, right? Because the C time frame is delivering, is for the C time frame to re-find a way back down here. Because if the C time frame can find its way here, this is going to be a phenomenal lower time frame right here to short inside of this leg right here. Okay. Yep. So if I'm lower, I wouldn't do the longs personally. I would just wait for the shorts to hopefully happen. Otherwise, I'd ignore it. I hope that clears it up and makes sense to you, Uno. Okay. Good. Anybody have any other question? Oh wait, Eddie said and tap an app. Look, We'll look at those. Yeah, and this reminds me of Pan W. This reminds me of RXT. Yeah, it looks great. Let's take a look at the V. Okay, it's a little bit less of a liquid market, it looks like. Oh, maybe it's not. Wow. It's just moving a little bit less liquid, but that's okay. It's in reaccumulation. Yeah, I mean, listen, nothing right now. I would not touch anything in that. But yeah, if you reaccumulate and you pause, there can be trades here, or like if you accumulate and pause, yes. But right now, nothing. And tap an app, you said. Fuck no. No, this one's terrible. Well, yeah, it's pretty terrible. I wouldn't touch this one. How does the Dow look to you? Probably the same as, before I even look at it, probably the same as this. I'm assuming it's in some kind of reaccumulation. Let's go look. Okay, so it kind of played that reaccumulation and is now delivering, but delivering extremely ugly. And that's fine. Yeah, that's bullish. Which makes sense. Bitcoin looking good. Let's see. GBTC. Yeah, it's next step is stage 2 down. Again, does it have to pause? No. Let's look at the V. V moves into distribution. This is kind of like a redistribution or MMB. Kind of ugly, hard to trade that one. Kind of harder to trade that one, but this is really solid. I will look to trade Bitcoin this week. This reminds me. Let's see what MSTR is doing. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. I will be on this thing on shorts again. There you go. Stage 2, like, let's get another one of these, even half of it. That'll be amazing. Stage 2, flush, wait for the move, and yeah. Or like here. Yep. I'll be in that for sure. Let me get rid of this alert now. I don't need it. That was for my break even last week or 2 weeks ago. There we go. This was my 11R trade right there. Yeah. Bitcoin, here, so MSTR, Bitcoin, all of it, yeah, it's pointing towards down. So again, try to use the relativity of like GBTC, because it can define for you what's happening. Like this is over weekend, so you're looking at more illiquid action here. But align them, and yeah, right now, if this opens and starts breaking down, this is going to be a phenomenal trade. Shorts look really, really good on this. If you're ultra low time frame, for the guy that asked me about like crypto futures and stuff, you know, you are building a one-sided market, building a bigger stage 1 here. If you can get a move kind of above like this area here, like 50-ish maybe, like there, that should be nice longs on lowers. But yeah, I'm trying to short this thing. I will be shorting MSTR very likely this week. Thank you for mentioning it, because I might have missed that. Well, I always do a quick check of my whole watch list every Monday morning, so I'd be fine, but good mention. Yeah, Bitcoin looks amazing for a continuation short. We'll see where this opens up on Monday. Let's see, does it show us? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I mean, it's just setting this up. Looks good. No reason we can't see that happen, right? This would be on like the 4 hour. Yeah, this is your flush. Yeah, we just build up a leg here, and then we start making legs high, lower. Harder market to trade with like a little bit more wicks and stuff, but again, that's why you use relativity. Use relativity, look across a few of the pairs that are synonymous with the market you're looking at. It'll give you a much better perspective of what that market is doing, and then you can play it accordingly, okay? Looks good, though. Apple. I mean, Apple's just Apple, bro. Apple's just Apple. there's nothing to do here right now. It moved up. It's reaccumulated. I mean, what are you gonna do here right now? Like, sure, if it pauses, you might get another leg out of it. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing here really. Let me get this personal. Good. And let's close up with something good. With our boy Eddie. And also, thanks for being here, Eddie. This trade alone, this is the pound W, currently still in it, has taught me how long I'm willing to hold the trade and follow its leg. Pound W was and is a teacher in itself. I really don't get to be a part of big runners like that, because you believe they're flukes, right? Because of how my system works, to see how this plays in my favor is one of those, when it runs, it's going to run. Pound W and Bitcoin were both of my best trades in management by far, and I'm sure you learned a lot about your own system with that happening. So congratulations, that's awesome. And you're starting to let the flukes become part of the system. So, you know, all I'm going to finish it off with today, guys, is no matter how it is that you're feeling about, let's say, your forward test, your even back test, or even your live trading right now, do not forget that those pits of despair and those fluke wins that you believe are flukes and that you have to change things are part of the system that's going to create the equity curves you're going to look back on in a few months' time and go, oh, now I know why I'm doing the things I'm doing. Okay? And that's really all, boys. Listen, thank you all so much. You guys are amazing. Appreciate you all always being here every Sunday. And girls, of course. Don't get me wrong, of course. Blessed. Fortuner, appreciate you being here. I see you're new to the team or something, right? But appreciate you being here. Have a lovely Sunday, everyone. What about competition? Yeah, for the accountability, I'm gonna do it in post winners. I just said I have to add all the people that are within the personalized as well, but they will be posted, so don't worry. KP, appreciate you being here, man. Welcome to the team. All right, guys, have a great weekend, okay? Have a beautiful rest of your Sundays, and I'll see you all in the trade talks and next weekend, okay? Goodbye.